In the last video, we talked about the old style Chinese hunting gun for the bird hunters. But in the world, another very similar hunting gun exists, which has the almost the same shot pellets, same black powder, same size of the gun, and also used an early style look of gun. So today, let's move our sight on the western world and let's talk about this gun.
1 rook, 4 wimbrels, 7 grey plovers, 7 ringed plovers, 6 curlew.
As an iconic hunting gun, it is not an unique gun for only one country. Although the shape had some different points, the almost the same guns were used by not only American bird hunters but European bird hunters. Like in the UK, there even was a report on the news as a kind of a traditional gun. It appeared in a village celebration, so until now, it may be more like a kind of a symbol in the traditional firearm culture because its giant body and a very strong recoil when open fire. Typically, this always is fixed on a punt, so it hides the name, punt gun. But here appears a problem: how to aim when using the gun. We know that when operating a normal gun, when holding it on the hands, we can very easily aim the target by adjusting our hand's position in the air. Comparatively, the punt gun was set on the punt, although some of them were set on a silver holder, so this kind of punt gun can be used like the modern machine gun. Many of them were not, and were installed on the punt directly in order to prevent the gun separated from the punt because of the huge recoil after opening fire. Many guns were bound by rope, just like the ancient cannons fixed on battleships. By the way, it was mentioned that for getting a better hunting and shooting effect, many hunters' punt guns were custom built by individual smiths. Thanks to some people who documented the gun by shooting videos, we can learn about this gun. If a man wants to aim, he needs to move the punt by paddling carefully, and once sees a chance to attack, he must put the paddle back and pull the trigger immediately. When mentioning opening fire, it's time to talk about the lock. In fact, the lock usually was very traditional, the flintlock and the percussion lock. Even though, into the repeating rifle time, many punt guns still had the early lock. At best, some hunters could buy in some branch loading punt guns, which could use a kind of large cartridge that loaded the shot pellets, as known as the shotgun shells, but it was just very big. Compared with the Chinese punt gun, which usually had 2 hunters, one hunter to drive the punt and another hunter to operate the gun. The Western punt gun was a little bit different because there was only one hunter on the punt who had to paddle, aim, and operate the gun at the same time. Except for that, the Western punt gun actually was very similar to the Chinese punt gun, and also not only for the Chinese hunters but also for the Western hunters. The ducks were always their main target, and all of them had to get down in the boat to hide themselves when close to the ducks. Meanwhile, the Chinese punt gun and the Western punt gun had a very long barrel, from the head of a man to 2 men, so the gunner had to lead the gun and stand on a higher place to pour the black powder and then pour the shot pellets. Because of the very long barrel, the loading process was not as easy as the normal muzzle loaders. Longer and larger barrels also brought the corresponding power. The punt gun was not a kind of gun with a quick fire rate, but it was really an efficient hunting tool. The guns of Chinese bird hunters in Yangtze River could knock down 10 to 20 ducks for only 1 shot, but the number might not be an overstatement, because some Western owners of the punt gun, whose barrel was just a little bit longer, at around 2 meters, or some even had almost the same length barrel, around 1.8 meters, could shot down dozens or even almost 100 birds for one shot. Maybe the conversion evolution also happened in the gun's era. So finally, we saw a kind of similar gun used by the hunters in two totally different places. Then, according to the article on the website Wisconsin History, in 1876, the Mayville newspaper reported a news report. One hunter claimed that he had killed 96 ducks with one shot on Holcomb Marsh. The hunter might be overstating his feat, but there may be no doubt that the punt gun really is an efficient gun for bird hunting. What if we talk about legal or illegal? We will have to focus on the ecological situation. When the time back to the late 19th century, actually, there was the alarming depletion of wildfowl. So, in 1870, the state legislature outlawed killing any wild duck, bred, or wild goose, with or by means of the device, instrument, or firearm known as a punt or saber gun. And also not only in Wisconsin, this kind of killing birds was gradually banned by many states. So maybe the hunter who I mentioned in the last chapter might have broken the law. Hunting is not always the enemy of the environment, but overhunting and illegal hunting are the real problem. So finally, the punt gun gradually also became the collection in the museums. Plus, with the time going and the technology developing, more safe and more practical hunting gears were into the hunting markets. The old school hunting way and the guns are not the best choice for hunters. Finally, the punt guns are just gradually leaving the history state. Okay, this is the punt gun story. Hope you got this video. Have a good day. See you next time. Bye.